Hello, guys. I am Sean Zachary, founder of the National HBCU Auxiliary and Dance Directors Association. So thank you guys for joining us today. Today's topic is branding our organizations, our teams, our bands, branding, image. What I hope to get out of this session is that you all will be educated on some of the basics that I think directors are just not educated on at all in regards to trademarks and licensing and all these other things that, you know, as we are moving forward, we really need to be concerned about, especially since in this new era of COVID, we are going to be almost 100% virtual to a degree until, our schools bring sports back. So this is a very important conversation. And what I wanted to do was to bring people to the panel that would be able to lend all kinds of information. Some of my panelists have been in March HBCU performance units, so they understand. Some of our panelists have not, but they have done so many things that we can learn from. And so that was my goal in putting this panel together. So let me go ahead and introduce our panel. So first off is Mr. Michael Douglas. Let's see. Well, currently, Mr. Douglas is our public relations specialist at Prairie View A&M in the Office of Marketing and Communications. He went to Austin and Northwestern University. He has years of experience as a broadcast news reporter in several states and freelance journalist for more than 10 years, and has worked as a visiting instructor at Florida Memorial University, California Polytechnic State University, San Luis Obispo, Florida A&M, and Jackson State. And so he's now a Panther with us, and we are happy to have him. So go ahead and get the snaps up, because that's how we do it. Okay. And so next also is Terrence Gilbert. Now, Terrence didn't send me his bio, but I'm gonna tell you what I know about Terrence. Terrence is a graduate of Prairie View A&M University. And for the longest time, I have depended on him for everything media, everything. He's worked hand in hand with the professionals up at Prairie View in the marketing and communications department. He has successfully created his own brand, Trademark Creative, and as you can see by his t-shirt, the Uppity Negro brand, which has come about as of late, and has a lot of experience in regards to branding and image and the rules and regulations and all of that. So definitely wanted him to be on this panel. So let's welcome him. Okay, our next panelist, hold on a second, guys, is Ms. Brenda Teal. And Ms. Teal is the former anchor from KTBS 3 News in Shreveport, Louisiana. She's a graduate of Howard University with a degree in broadcast journalism, former news reporter and anchor at NBC Universal, and has served from time to time as a judge for the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, which you guys know how I feel about that. And that is Dr. Zachary. We're gonna have to put him on hold. Okay. So let's welcome Ms. Brenda Teal to the panel. All right. Kayla Jackson. So Kayla received her BA in economics with a concentration in marketing from Spelman College, where she participated in Morehouse College dance team known as Mahogany in Motion. Upon graduation, Kayla spent 5 years as a marketing professional in the IT industry, as well as a dance captain choreographer for the NBA Atlanta Hawks. During her tenure with the Hawks, she was allotted the opportunity to use her marketing expertise to increase engagement on the Atlanta Dancers social media platforms. After 5 years in corporate, Kayla has decided to pursue her career in entertainment full time. So, and I've seen you, Kayla. I just didn't know who you were when I saw you. But some of her credits include Milwaukee Ballet's Don Quixote, the Nutcracker, Aretha Franklin, Ludacris, Sierra, Izzy Azalea, Scotty ATL, Teddy Riley, Guy Blackstreet, BT's Hit the Floor, Step It Up with the Water Series, BT Boomerang, Bolden, and more. So let's all welcome Kayla Jackson to the panel. Next up is Mr. Garrett Edgerson. Garrett, are you a graduate of, you're a graduate of Southern University, correct? You better be.
Sweet 13.
Garrett is well known amongst our band media teams. He is everywhere, considered one of the originators in terms of what we are seeing now in band media. He works for the Southern University Human Jukebox, as well as The Edge Productions, which he has on his own, where he does some of his own work. So let's welcome Garrett Edgerson. And last but certainly not least is Dr. Lamont Lawhorn, who is the Assistant Director of Bands at North Carolina A&T. And Dr. Lawhorn is currently oversees the media team at North Carolina A&T. Prior to A&T, he worked at North Carolina Central University over the percussion units at both universities. A native of Fort Worth, Texas, he received his Bachelor of Music degree in music education from Prairie View A&M University, where he was a member of the Marching Storm, received his Master of Music degree from University of Mississippi, and his Doctor of Musical Arts degree from University of North Carolina at Greensboro. As I said, he is currently Assistant Director of Bands at North Carolina A&T, teaches within the music department, and is over the media team. He is also an endorsee of Pearl Adams, Drum Dots, Remo Drumheads, Vic First Sticks, and Zildjian Cymbals. So let's welcome Dr. Lawhorn to the panel. All right, so let's jump right into this, guys. So as soon as I can bring up my questions, hold up. Okay, so what I'd like you guys to do is give just, even though I have introduced you by reading your bios, if we could just go around through each person on the panel and just kind of give me a brief, just summation of your experience in media, so that everybody can kind of understand, where we're coming from with this. And let's start with Terrence.
Media somehow is in my DNA. I wasn't very athletically inclined. I have never been disciplined enough to be in the band. I don't like being told what to do. So therefore the band, I was in band for 1 semester in 6th grade, and I ate Skittles the whole time. Never learned my music, never did anything. So I went over the choir. But at the same time, I began my love affair with writing and media. And I've just kind of worked my way around since then. And I just take pride in being multifaceted when it comes to media. So, and I like band. I'm not really a band head, so to say, but I appreciate all of the skills. You can't be an HBCU person without having some love for band. You're on mute, Sean.
Okay, Mr. Douglas.
So I'm originally from East Texas. So the only HBCU I knew about growing up in Lufkin was Prairie View, and I only heard about them my senior year in high school. I knew some of my classmates who were not in the top 50% were applying. So I didn't really know about a Howard and things of that nature until I got to the University of Texas. And while at UT, I was a member of Longhorn Singers, and I also had in our choir, we had members who were a member of the Longhorn Band as well as the UT cheerleaders. So my experience of dealing with media as a journalism major from UT involved in seeing how we as Longhorn Singers as well as those in the band were kind of covered. Now, with my experience of teaching, what was interesting, I trained students on how to, from a journalist perspective, but also teaching production. And what was fascinating for me, when at Florida Memorial, I actually launched a broadcasting program, but I saw they started a pep band there because it's a very small school. Then when I was at FAMU, what was interesting, that's when I really began to learn about, the Marching 100 and everything that all entails, but they did not have a dance squad. And so it was interesting to say, well, I didn't get, I still didn't understand the hype behind, this is my second HBCU, but I understood it, but didn't get it because I didn't go to undergrad. But I was always looking at how either controlled access was on the field, as far as trying to get your story, but also, and I arrived at Prairie View and also been at Jackson State, seeing how chaotic things can be. And of course, when it comes to branding, when I'm on Instagram, I'm not really doing stories, but I'm looking at different things. So when I saw what, met with the Zachary's and stuff like that, my first year there, it was interesting for me to see the pack mentality that's been going on with some of these bands and understanding what the brand is. So I'm looking at this from, in my current role, but also as the training and the quality, but also the ownership of, owning your brand, which I think Brenda was going to do a good job in, talking about that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good segue there. Ms. Teal.
Well, I hope that I can do some justice to branding. Thanks, Michael. Good to see you, by the way.
You too. You too.
Well, let's see. My experience started, a long time ago when the dinosaurs roamed the land. But I do have experience pre-social media and post-social media, and it is a big difference. I have judged the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders for the last 17 years. I do that by the age of my kids. I have worked in Washington, D.C. I've worked in Los Angeles. I covered Magic Johnson when he announced that he was HIV positive. I've done interviews with Michael Jordan. I've interviewed George Bush. And so the spectrum is broad. I have done entertainment. I've done weather. I've done news. And one thing that I can speak to is the way the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders have protected and built their brand. And I can also speak from a damage control perspective. As a journalist, I often see things that people post and I'm thinking, why? Some of my other experiences, not on paper, is I coach churches through media crisis and telling them what not to say and how to quickly get on the news headlines. And so that's kind of my experience. I spanned about 20 some odd years in the news business, and I'm excited to be here joining you guys today.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's go with Ms. Jackson, Kayla Jackson.
Hey, so I guess my perspective is kind of a double perspective. I've been in entertainment all my life. So as far as branding, our brand as an entertainer is very important to be able to have. Your brand is how you get booked on jobs. Your brand, how your likeliness is, how you keep a job. So on that side of it, from an entertainer standpoint, branding is very important. And as I assist Ray Cole with Mahogany Motion, and I work as one of their choreographers. And that's something that we really implement, is just understanding how to maintain the integrity of the dancer's brand and also how to help them understand what that brand means to an organization like Spelman College or Morehouse College. And my years on Hawks, that was something that was very important, of making sure that our brand not only aligned with the NBA, but also the Atlanta Hawks organization, the Atlanta of the city. And then as far as a media perspective, from a new age social media standpoint, digital marketing and social media is very important. From my experience of working with it, it can definitely help elevate different brands on a quicker scale. So yeah, that's my experience with it.
Okay, great. All right, Dr. Lawhorn.
All right. I guess on a personal note, my branding experience came from trying to establish myself as a performer, and then getting into the collegiate teaching realm by being immature on social media. So that let me know that first you need to understand who you are and how you represent yourself. On the collegiate level, as far as band is concerned, my role as media took place in 2016 when Dr. Jones took a sabbatical from the program, and the BGM and media team had to keep rolling. So I came in as a primary editor. Didn't know exactly what I was doing because I was at home making drum set videos and knew a little bit about Final Cut and switching stuff. And throughout the time, I just kept growing and growing. Dr. Jones ended up transitioning on to Hampton University, and my role as a primary editor remained. And just trying to take in all ideas on how we can keep progressing, keep evolving, and making sure that we remain prevalent in the HBCU world, knowing that, there's a lot of good bands out there, a lot of good media teams. We want to make sure that that our university and our band program was being represented at the highest level. If that meant equipment, if that meant performance, it didn't matter. We wanted to make sure that everything that we put out there was the highest quality. And so when we think about branding for the university or for the band program, we represent so much, as far as just individual students, the band program, and the university as a whole. So we can't go in there with the mindset of this is just what we want to do. We need to make sure that we're covering a lot of boxes because we represent so many people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, Mr. Edgerson.
For me, I started. I'm a band head. I'm from New Orleans, so band is life in the city. Katrina happened. Moved to Arizona, then I graduated in Arizona, but when I moved back, I decided, I can make my own DVDs. So let me pick up the camera and start doing what I want to do. So from the time around 2010, that's when I started shooting videos. Then push come to shove, you get better and better as the years go on. 2014 gets here when Mr. Hammond takes over. He brings me in to take over media for the band. The rest is history. I'm here now as the media director for one of the best bands in the world. And for me, I didn't major in anything mass comm. My major is computer science. I know I'm a nerd. I get all that good stuff. So I had to learn the branding marketing team because they teach you every day about certain things. And I'm just like, did you post this? Like, that didn't look good. Like, what?
Uh-oh, did we lose him? Can y'all still hear him, or is it me?
I'm still
Yeah,
here.
I'm here.
Uh-oh,
This
Gary.
time I got a bad reception.
Yeah,
That's it. Everybody texting me.
Come on, Mr. IT.
Hey, I'm in the country right now. I can't help it. I'm in Oakdale, in the middle of Louisiana. I can't help it.
Representing bad for the computer science.
And I thought I was having trouble with my microphone.
I cannot help it.
Well, that's okay. So, let me get started here. It's been said that our HBCU performance units perform in the public arena, that external media outlets, i.e. those not affiliated with the school, and sidebar, we had a discussion with them last night. So that was very interesting. Have the automatic right to record and distribute under their names without our permission. Is that true? If so, what are the particulars around that? If not, what should we know about this? Because this is something that we get into all the time, which is who owns the rights to our likenesses when we are representing our marching bands, our dance teams, and our universities.
Could I chime in really quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so in my opinion and professional opinion, I think this goes back to before you can get to the band, it goes to the overall relationship that the institution have with media outlets, whether that be local and regional up to national media outlets, because it's a trickle down type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, we all know that in certain markets that there are media that there are affiliates that are going to do what they want to do regardless. Mm-hmm. But I think if the university has enough of a clamp down effect and they pretty much can control what's going in and what's coming out about the institution as much as they can, then that shouldn't even be a question, really. I mean, it's no different from when issues happen on campus, when media outlets, particularly with HBCUs, they don't go through the protocol that they would for a PWI. They just walk up on our campuses, just talk to any students without contacting media relations. So I think that also has a lot to do with working hand in hand with marketing communications from a university point of view.
Can I speak about it from a dance team's perspective?
Yes.
So for Mahogany, as someone who's gone through the program, as well as someone on the leadership side now, we spend a really great deal making sure that our girls understand the rules and regulations of both institutions, of Morehouse College and Spelman College, as far as their handbook is concerned, on how to act, how to be in public, how to conduct themselves on outside engagements. As far as media, we also we kind of like train our girls to understand the importance of always reverting back to your leadership. So none of our girls would take an interview, or none of our girls would take a photo that they know is not appropriate, because we have an approval process that they go through. And also, we don't allow our new members to have, we have a stronger control over their social media, so that we can help them understand what the branding mechanisms we like to use, how we want them to post. We have them highly involved in our social media right now, so that they can understand what the culture of Mahogany Emotion is and the culture of Spelman and Morehouse College is. And then as far as the branding side on other, media outlets using our likeliness, no, because we are in an age of technology, no, you can't control someone putting a video of our field show on YouTube. However, what we've done is we've created relationships with those entities who have filmed us. And we've also tried to bring them in on our team so that we can kind of control the content that they do put out. I hope I made sense.
Yeah, definitely. Mr. Douglas.
Okay. So when you talk about media, this is for me. There's a difference in people who are with, that were network affiliated, like owned and operated, a local media. Now you have a lot of people, and I'm glad the IT guy says, I just picked up the camera and started shooting, because what I've seen at HBCUs, and also as a professor who's teaching this, having them to understand that you could. Not everyone and their mama needs to be down on the field, because when I see I've seen Southerns. I was recently up on IG looking at it was basically like it was this pack mentality of all these cameras while they're kind of walking into the field, and I kind of looked at that situation and I'm not understanding how are all these folks on the field, because your own media team cannot get the angles that it needs, because you have too many people there anyway. So everyone knows someone that knows someone knows someone. So I think the university, like at UT, from my experience there as a student in media and a student attending the games, only way that you can get onto that field is if you have a certain credential that's checked. Even when I was working at Florida Memorial and I was a volunteer for the Super Bowl media center, what we had checks and balances, and even people might come with a number of people on their team, but only 2 people were on that field. And as far as controlling the brand, I think most of the HBCUs are really, from what I've gathered, I think the Black Foxes, I kind of now know what their image is. The dancing, the Southern University do not know the official name. I've kind of seen now what their brand is. So, but it's a fact of controlling the extra people that are around that's causing the problem, and that means there's got to be a culture shift. And well, my uncle is such and such. I got me a camera. I said, great. Where does this air? Pre-qualifying people, and I think that'll control some of it. Now, if there are limited access to getting on that field and they have to be up there with other ticket buyers, I think that will control a little bit of the chaoticness that you see at some of the games. Like I know at FAMU, I went to several of their games begrudgingly, but I went there with some of my students just to see it, because I'm looking at it from how do I teach it, but also from a media perspective, how are they telling that story? So I think the bands are now, and I think DDFL will really help elevate the interest in this, being that people are making money off of the dancers in the schools content. So again, but if they're up in the field and shooting that's fine. But when they get down there where they're creating liability, that's a whole other situation. So I think
is that the main thing though? Is it the creation of the liability? Is that what the university is most concerned about? Or
well, I think the university, that should be one thing, because that's one thing they should be definitely considering, because if my child or a relative is in the band and they trip over somebody, and I know Brenda will tell you they're going to go for deep pockets first. So it doesn't matter who allowed what I call Raheem to get down on that field, because Raheem created a scenario that allows the parent to say, okay, you know what, y'all should have better control over this. My child has now suffered this injury, and we need to get paid. So, and I think it comes with the dancers and the bands. Y'all are very disciplined. Y'all are very structured. And I think those who want to get to cover you all need to get a taste of your structure and your order and your protocol, because it really is almost animalistic, like a better term. I like to say, I look on IG, I look at all those people, you got your hype people on the side, but when you get down there in the field, if you're in a parade, even in parades, they know they cannot get out there. If you compare a HBCU parade to a Rose Bowl. Now, you didn't see no folks out there on the field for the Rose Bowl, so yeah, I think it comes with being able to step up and say, hey, you know what, you're not on this list, so get on up there in the stands, hope you bought a ticket, because again, you have to protect your dancers, protect your band members, because if you're doing a formation and these people are in the way, then it's like, it makes the university look bad, it makes the band look bad, but they're going to take that video and sell it and try to get, hits on YouTube and get that money.
Well, yeah, that happened at Southern.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it has.
It happened at Southern with the coach, with the coach of the Dancing Dolls. And it wasn't pretty, and it wasn't nice, and it got shared, and it went viral, and it was, and then of course everyone had their 2 cents about it, about what was right, what should have been done, what could have been done, what was she supposed to do, who was wrong, who was right, and that is just one of the the things that I wanted to bring forward is is now that you're saying liability is a part of the concern, which is key, but the other part is the intellectual property. We have to have a process. I think there is a process for us being able to say who we are allowing to record us and to post us, and if we're not allowing you to do that, you should not be down there.
Prime example, Sean, State Fair Classic, was it last year, had to be the year before last. So I can't remember what the situation was. And just, I'm going to give an early disclaimer. Any opportunity that I can to brag on the Marching Storm because I know I heard Garrett slide a little something in there about the best band or something. Anyway, but what we've done, like for example, with the State Fair Classic, all of the media affiliates in Dallas are pretty familiar with when y'all come to town, what y'all do, how y'all do it. There is one that just loves y'all. And what I discovered was if they have a good relationship with you and they respect you as a band and they understand intellectual property, they'll reach out to whomever that they need to, even on a weekend, on a Saturday night. If you can remember, Sean, I had to text you and Dr. Zachary because, like, as y'all were leaving the stadium, they like literally wanted a clip. Now, it could be problematic that they weren't there for such a large event, but they still went through the band, and I just want to commend that y'all were able to give them clips and everything that they needed, you know, in a very short period of time. So I think that that speaks to the importance of having a very organized and a good media team for the band when we don't get the coverage traditionally as other schools.
Right.
At A&T, we literally had to go through a mass overhaul for our media, not just the media team, but the media of the university. They literally did an audit on the band program and was like, we see that you have 4 Facebook pages, you have 3 YouTube pages, you have 6 Twitter accounts, and everybody was like, whoa, we didn't know all of this was happening. So we literally had to consolidate a lot of things. And then, you know, everybody was going through the whole Traysona, all type of things. So we was paying for all type of everything. So our policy now is if we're at Aggie Stadium, if we're in our home stadium or in an event that we are hosting, we are the primary source of the media coverage. And we had to talk with our athletic directors and the media with the athletic department, because we were saying how nobody can just come in and record a football game. So how can somebody just come in and record the band? We need to make sure, is there a policy we can put in place that stop people with cameras and all types of things, because people just literally started to follow the band every event, every game, and take halftime, post it or whatever. And the thing about these situations is people are capturing everything to be first, regardless if they're right or wrong. They just want to be first, get it out there. Let me put it all out there. And there was a situation that we had at a game afterwards where there was a scuffle with some alumni members and some members of another band. Didn't involve either of the band's drum lines. Neither of those students were involved. It was alumni and some other people. And the drum line was getting ready to do a performance at an international conference, and it was a fight. And so this person or this team or this media person was on their head to just release the footage. Let's get it out there. We couldn't have that. You know what I mean? Like, that was not a look that we needed for the university to have. And so what the policy is in place now is nobody is able to record the university band while we're in our own area. And unless, like, if we travel to another battle of the bands or we're somewhere else where somebody has brought us in, now we understand we may not be able to control that. And we can't control somebody with a cell phone that's recording either. What we're talking about is people who have subscribers and followers and legitimate teams who are trying to make money off of these bands. And what we do isn't cheap. The equipment that we have is not cheap. The time and hours that we put in is timeless. And so just to say, oh, somebody's going to take an overhead clip and just put it out there and make some money off the band. These people aren't donating back to the band. They aren't giving to any scholarship fund or anything like that. Somebody may say, oh yeah, well, I gave $50. $50 isn't buying meals for 2 people. You know what I mean? So you can't say that you're actually thinking in the best interest of the program. Everybody that's involved with the university media team, that's with whatever band, is thinking to put their band first. be it the look of the band, nobody's trying to put bad dance routines. If somebody falls, during the dance routine, whoever's editing gonna make sure they put a different cut. Nobody wants to put their own program out there bad. But then you have some people who are just saying, oh, I captured it, look at that, let me get some links. That's not what we're trying to have. And I think it's really some people who are doing they're disingenuous with what they're doing, because they're just trying to make money off these programs, whereas the program is trying to maintain their brand with what it is that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you.
My question is, what are you doing to create your brand? I mean, we're talking a lot about controlling the brand. And I also hear you saying that damage control is a part of it. Mm-hmm. But that's your brand too. You have control over that. It's not what you do when you're on. You're always on. If you're in that uniform, you're representing the whole. And so that needs to be brought under control first. Have a brand, create a brand that's worth promoting. Yes. So I put that question out there to you. What do you have in place that is protecting your brand and helping you promote a strong, solid brand?
I think it varies just from team to team, from band to band. I happen to be over the media team over March and Storm Media. I'm the advisor for their team, so for our team. And it's tough because we're always in a position of training and educating them. A lot of these are not, media professionals. These are kids. These are freshmen, sophomores. In some cases, we do have some older students who are kind of aged out from playing their instruments. And so now, they still want to give back to the band. So they are on the media team. So we're in a constant position of training and educating them. But this has also been where what I have done, and then Terrence can tell you, I've reached out to him to kind of come in and train and educate. Since Mr. Douglas has been around, he has just been amazing in working with us and trying to say, here's what we need. We need you to do this. Okay. And I need you to do that. And then we're going to put this together and we're going to do this. And he just lay it all out. He calls me and says, I need you to do this, and this. And then I'm like, cool. It's easy. For me, I've been in corporate America for 30, I just told my age. Woo. Okay, but over 30 years, right? I've been in corporate America, and so I do have a little bit of a marketing background, but not like you guys who are the professionals, And so it's been very helpful to have that relationship with our marketing and communications departments on campus, so that they can kind of guide us in that way, because the whole, branding, all of this it was very haphazard at the beginning. We were just out there. And that's why we're in a state of chaos now, because we didn't know what we were doing.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
For Spelman and Morehouse, so while I was there, I graduated in 2013. The whole branding and marketing and all of that wasn't really a thing. We didn't have to worry about people filming us or recording us. And in actuality, when I graduated, that was the year of the viral videos, when that started to happen. And I think that actually did contribute to the brand that Mahogany has been able to have. Unfortunately, Mahogany, we are an amazing dance team, but we come from a very small institution. Like Morehouse is not as known as A&T or as known as a FAMU for their band program. So the recordings from the stadium or the recordings from the random person has actually elevated our brand and allowed us to grow our following on different platforms or just in different ways, and we've been able to get more recognition. Still quality team, as quality as we were almost 10, 15 years ago, as they are now. It's just that we have the larger, recognition. And as far as, I can't remember Brenda, you asked a question about like, what are we doing? I think for Spelman and Morehouse, like we have a very strong hold on our brand as an institution in general. And so I think that the different media outlets that are present, we have a organization called AUC Cam, and they record everything at Morehouse, Clark Atlanta events, and Spelman events. I think they respect the brand because, you know, they are of the Morehouse and Spelman brand that has already been like really strongly ingrained. And like I said, we have reached out to people and we have developed relationships with those media outlets that are student ran so that we can have a stronger hold on what they've filmed. So now at this point, you know, like I said, filming and putting out media wasn't a thing like really 7 years ago. Now it is. Now we can reach out to AUC Cam and say, hey, we're wearing this costume at this time, we're doing this, or the cheerleaders are doing this at this time. So can you make sure you film us when they do that? And it's more of a communication. I think as long as people, you know, it's all about a network. As long as you have open communication with the people that, you know, control the media within in-house, as far from an in-house standpoint, I think that you can really control how your brand is presented. And as others have said, you have to always be on point. You know, we don't let our girls or anyone go out looking, you know, unpresentable. We don't, you know, we want to present a very strong brand. So, you know, I danced on the Hawks for 5 years. I know what it feels like to be filmed. When I was on tour, I found videos of myself that I was like, wow, I didn't even know they got that angle. And, you know, there's some things you just can't control. And whether they want it for views or not, if they donate or not, you know, when it comes to branding and it comes to like, especially like social media, that's a very uncontrollable, environment right now. So the only thing you can control, to your point, Brenda, is your own personal brand and making sure that everyone involved in their brand is knowledgeable on how to present themselves so that at least in-house you can control it so that all the external factors don't really shake or move the brand. So even if someone were to get in a fight, Mahogany knows you better look straight, you better look forward. You know, if anything were to go, a press release will go out on something about Morehouse or Spelman. We have basically trained our girls to not communicate about it. Don't talk about it until we release a final statement. Mm-hmm. So those are things that you have to do in order to have, you know, damage control. You have to basically create, you know, a kind of in-house culture so that everything else is untouchable. Because I mean, social media is such an uncontrollable variable. I know personally, like.
Well, I have a quick anecdote that I've told a couple of people. Back when I worked on staff at South Carolina State, we were so shocked, and this was before everything had gotten as, you know, ingrained as it is now. And Mr. Ellis, band director at South Carolina State at the time, basically identified one, because we didn't have there was no such thing as internal media teams at the time. There might have been, but this was 2006. And he designated one media outlet to record the band. And anybody else that posted anything of the band, he went into YouTube and just started snatching.
Cease and desist.
Yep.
There we go. Good.
He started snatching them. And we, of course, not knowing what was to come in the future, what we were going to be dealing with now, we were like, why? You know, that's just overkill. Like, why are you doing that? And now here we are in 2020, and it's like, oh, okay, I got it. I see it now. So, you know, my question is kind of like, in regards to, and just a very simple statement on ownership. Who owns it, and do we have the right to do that, to go and say, you got to pull that down? Do we have the right to do that?
I would like to jump in on one thing that alluded to what Brenda was saying about knowing your brand. I happen to be at FAMU now, probably when the Marching 100 came back after the death of Robbie Champion down in Orlando. Mm-hmm. And so what was interesting, they had already hired a new band director. And so I started during the summer. And so again, I didn't really know about the Marching 100 and all its history. I soon learned, once I got there. But what was interesting, some of my students wanted to, and this comes back to knowing what your brand is, but also having your media team to be trained in basic production, because being a member of a media team doesn't mean you know how to produce something or how to shoot something. So when they were having a news conference on campus and right during my class time, they said, "Oh, well, we need to go here for this news conference." I said, "For what?" Well, our band, they was talking about the band. I said, "Okay." So I just did a quick poll. How many of y'all were in a band 3 or 4 years ago? No hands were raised. So, and I asked another question, and this comes when thinking about strategy and planning. I said, "Well, how many of you all, did they hire someone recently?" "Yeah, about a month ago." "Okay, and y'all have a new interim president?" Yeah. So if they hire someone, a news conference is called, guess what? Here's the news conference. The band is coming back. But what was interesting, I said, now let's talk about what happened leading up to this fiasco. I said, when I did my background on it, and this is something dealing with the bands and I saw a question in the chat about media specialists and people that age out and things of that nature. The issue at FAMU at the time, from my perspective, was you had people out there marching with their granddaddies and their uncles, people who were no longer affiliated with the university as an undergraduate, or else even as a graduate student, because even graduate students I don't think are allowed to march with. So you had 500 people in there, and maybe over a third of them were not affiliated with the university. So it created so many litigious situations. When it comes back to, is that your brand? Get out there marching with your granddaddy. And so I think when it comes down to, for those people who don't, people can grab a DSLR and they can go start shooting, but what f-stop are you utilizing? Or what story are you telling? Because the dances are a story. The band's performances are a story. You got your crescendos, all that type of stuff. So I think one thing could really help your media teams is to have them, take an elective in a production class if it's offered, because that really helps them to understand, oh, okay, I have all this equipment, but what angles, because again, I see people bumping into each other. Now I'm like, I'm in sensory overload. So I think by having them get schooled, taking an elective class will help the production value, but it will also understand that this is a major production. And as far as the images, I think most of the teams now are really doing a good job as far as, again, controlling their look and their image. But I started teaching back in 2004, before social media started, and telling the students, look, whenever something happens, y'all have cell phones, get the video, make sure it's framed appropriately. So something pops off. And I was at a school that made CNN because they were hosing down vents because of mold, and they didn't have an appropriate message. So I think educating your band members and those auxiliary people on what is production, what you need to go for, and then limiting those people who will be able to get on the field to get those ideal shots. Now, and like you said, with social media, with the gentleman at South Carolina State, if you say we allow you all to get no more than 2 minutes of video, period, and have your social media media teams check everybody's video, cease and desist. Too long. That's our property.
So it is our property.
Yeah, it might not be your music, but the dance are original to your. Everyone has their little stance, and I believe that if you say we'll allow you all to get footage, but you are being limited, and make anyone that comes in there sign a release saying that this is going to be utilized just for entertainment purposes only, but not more than 2 minutes video total per game, per whatever.
But I would venture to say that many of these people are monetizing their sites.
Yes, they definitely are.
So how do you control people who are coming in with a cell phone, like an iPhone 11, and the iPhone 11 is the same clarity as a Canon, and they're filming from the stands, and then they post it on YouTube, and hypothetically speaking, they are getting it for likes or for money or for monetary gain. How do you then control that? Do you then have a no video release form when people buy tickets, or how do you control that
You don't, because anybody, the quality would not be that great because you know how it is in the stands.
Well,
with
I
those
would
games.
disagree because I dance professionally and
Uh-huh.
I film auditions. All the TV shows that I've listed, I filmed all my auditions with an iPhone, and the
Well,
quality has been
where were you at?
perfectly
Where were you
fine.
positioned? Where were you positioned? Were you up in the stands amongst 50 to 100 people when you were filming?
I'm just playing devil's advocate. The iPhone
Okay.
11 is highly equipped and it works very similar to a regular camera.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I've shot news stories on my iPhone.
right,
What I'm
right.
saying is,
That's why I'm just wondering, like, how do you
yeah.
control that? Because it's like you're telling one person because they're on the ground that they can't only film 2 minutes. But regardless if it's good quality or not good quality, the content is still out there. So I'm just positioning, what do you do then as somebody from a ticketing standpoint, I guess, or
Mhm.
someone else to control that? Because it's, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll let Brenda come in because I know Kaylin Cole, who was on the DCC. I remembered her when she came from my high school. And I know, Brenda, you can probably talk about this. One thing from those professional games, people will have their cameras, but, you know, when you look at the quality, I'm a quality person because I get vertigo when I'm looking at bad video, you know, so, you know, but Brenda, I think maybe you can talk about, because I know from just being in all 3 major networks in Dallas, except for Fox. You should.
Except Fox, yeah. So as I'm listening to you, my thought goes to what the NBA has done in controlling their video and what the NFL has done. And you can watch clips from different people posting online or on social media platforms. But the best video out there is going to be what you find on NFL Network or on the NBA Network. So how can you then create the best video? So while that other homegrown video is out there, I think that it might be beneficial to create your own where anyone seeking to see what your band has done, because they truly are alumni and supporters, they want to go to that source. And just a thought.
Oh no, I completely agree with that, Brenda. That's exactly what I was thinking in my head.
Yeah. And then when that other video is out there, tag it to yours. Send it to your site.
Mm-hmm.
Make it work for you. Instead of fighting against it, make it work for you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, and I'm going through some of the other questions that we had here. I have one here, going back to the beginning topic on branding as a whole and not just the band. You know, if you had to give your top 3 things that we need to be concerned about with branding, what would be those things?
I would say, and from my little small perspective, one of the things I was thinking about tags, make sure too you're untagging things that are not supporting your likeness, you know, so a positive view of your likeness. Mm-hmm. I say that your brand is happening all the time, and you have to decide what you want that to look like, and everyone on the team needs to fall in line. With the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, there is an evaluation of what they have on their social media posts. So while Brenda Teal as an individual has I have my own Facebook page, but I still have to reflect the values of the stations that I've represented through the years. Absolutely. Because people will cross over. Mm-hmm. So that needs to be universal. And there have been people eliminated from the team because of some negative social media posts. So before you bring someone into the band, you might want to do a deeper evaluation of who is on the team so they know what's expected of them as you go forward. That's not 3 ideas, but that's one.
I think from the university perspective, I've only been at Prairie View for 1 year, but I think what's great to do, first of all, is to meet with the university's marketing communication team so that there's a clear understanding of what the university brand is, and then how the brand and dance media team can work in concert so that there is consistency, because oftentimes, I know at Prairie View, they reshare, specific items from the band. So making certain that there is understanding what the university brand is. And so that way, if you're in the music department, and the band department, or the dance, and then when we look at your media, then we see, okay, they are on brand for their brand. So, and then it also comes down to a third thing is to, again, ask the media department or marketing communications team to come and do some training, because we are on the front line of working with media people directly. For example, Brenda used to work at Channel 8. So Channel 8 was a big proponent of the classic up in Dallas-Fort Worth. So when we were up there last year, Demetra Obalor, who's no longer with Channel 8, but she left Channel 8, they were out there at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we knew the segments, they made sure they were ready. But again, it took planning and making certain that everyone understood what is the brand, so that Channel 8 knew what the brand was. And then I think the final thing to do is, one, again, work with the university's team. Two, have the university team come, and do some training. And three, always after every game, get with the marketing team at the university to do a post of what's out there. As Brenda was saying, what was tagged. They may have seen some things that were questionable and that was not from us, but maybe from audience members. And it helps to see what gains the most shares and what doesn't, and how can we rework what needs to be getting more. And I think that having an understanding and being very intentional is something to always keep in mind. Why am I shooting this from this particular angle? What is our plan for this? Post game, what happens with the content other than having, all these files up here? What's our plan? As Brenda, from working with executive producers and thinking of multiple shows, how do we get the best bang for our buck off of this and draw traffic to our stuff to build up our likes and our shares, so that way if we want to monetize our own stuff, that'll help pay for other media specialists if YouTube is paying us for our own content.
And one of the things that I want to mention,
while you were speaking, I was thinking of, how deep are you going? Yes, we've got a student who can play an instrument. Yes, we've got a student who can dance. But that can't be the only litmus test. You've got to go deeper than that. Is this person we're bringing into our organization going to represent us well?
Right. Right. I know Mahogany in Motion, we go through a series of interviews during their audition period. We also reevaluate all of our veterans every year, so everyone has to re-audition. A lot of for the most part, a lot of the coaches who come from Mahogany in Motion have come from other professional dance teams where we have to do the same thing. We have to re-audition every year. And as you were speaking on Dallas Cowboys, we do the same. We evaluate their social media. We evaluate just how they interact with themselves. So, they'll do peer reviews. Leadership also will, evaluate them every year. Because Mahogany Motion is so close, tight to a lot of our faculty and students on Spelman and Morehouse campus, when we do get new girls, we are able to ask questions. We ask for 2 references from their dance instructors in the past. So not only are we getting an insight from who the girls or guys who audition are from a student athlete perspective or a social media perspective, we are also getting a perspective of them from people who have taught them when they were children. Or who, taught them when they were coming up as, students.
And one of the things I wanted to also point out is that at Prairie View, we have, and I didn't know we had this, we have, I guess you can help me, Jordan's on because she knows about it too, but the collateral book.
Branding a style guide. Every school has a style guide.
Branding style guide. Didn't know about that. Did y'all know about that?
I mean, everybody should, because every major institution, whether you've been in corporate, especially in higher education, because that's how you know what colors are.
No,
and this is no offense, but I'm gonna say this because Sean, we've had this discussion before, and the importance of a branding style guide for an institution, it goes along it goes in line with this conversation because that branding style guide spells out everything. I mean, those are not cheap to create. They're very time consuming because every possible question that you could possibly have, even me being a vendor, any school I work with, anything, because I've been on the team that has put those together. But I'll say this, with bands and with HBCU culture, I think it's more of a cohesive, people need a cohesive understanding of HBCU culture, which is not always the norm. And we can't compare our culture to other cultures. For example, for a long time, until I really got into branding, there are colors that people wear for HBCUs that I thought were their colors and they aren't, you know, like, I'm not for sure because I don't make it my business to keep up with anything Grambling, but I don't know necessarily, is red one of their colors? Is red
it's their alternate?
Colors,
it's their alternate. It's their alternate. That's their alternate color. Just like Jackson State.
Same with Jackson State. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that was my question, but they love those colors. So that becomes a part. So you can't be like, well, that's not a part of their brand, because that is a part of who they are based on different time periods. Because I have people from Jackson State that they love the red. You know, there are certain traditions and things like that tied into those colors. But if you have new people that know nothing about the brands and they come in and they just want to shoot it down and say, well, this, you have to go into our history and our unique histories to kind of understand why things are the way that they are. And that falls into the overall relationship and branding piece.
But one of the things that we weren't aware of, and this is something that you all can follow up on at your own institutions, is that our collateral was not in the book. So we had to go through a process to get it in the book. And it just caused, you know, a big deal. I'm going to take a real quick moment to introduce someone. She's one of my legacy foxes. Her name is Alexandria Scott, and she's on the call, but she just graduated from law school, Texas Southern University. There you go. And she started her law firm, and she's doing intellectual property work and trademarking and all that good stuff. So y'all hit her up if you need her for something, but she is on the call. And I'm proud of her because she's a fox. But our stuff wasn't in the book. And we did the Garrett, you should know about this because we use the same company for our online stores as you guys do. And we got into a big argument with a Storm alum over a logo. And
so we went through the same thing.
And he swore up and down that he owned that logo. And I was like, sir, first of all, you can't put Marching Storm, PVAMU, Marching Storm on nothing and call it yours. It is not yours. And we just went through this big deal where he was trying to, I'm going to charge y'all royalties and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh no. I called Advanced Online. I said, take it all down. Take it down. Because I just, you know, I wasn't equipped to get into that, into that battle with him. But people really are confused.
Yeah.
About this part of it, but I will say,
there isn't, people don't know enough about intellectual property, particularly in the higher education realm. I just happen to have a background in it because I'm a graphic designer and I've worked in higher ed.
Right.
But if I weren't and if I hadn't, then I probably wouldn't. But I mean, there are just things, but I just want us to be very careful when we talk about one thing that we can't afford to lose right now is we can't afford to lose much of the culture while we try to enforce things. And all of that is critically important to, you know, the message being clear in the visibility piece. But, you know, some of those people, when you talk about people that are on the sidelines, those are people that have been on the sidelines for 40 or 50 years and who they're not like some of the younger people that might have all these complaints, but some of those people and their families were responsible for feeding the bands, and they do various things like that, and that's one of their ways of giving back. So you can police certain things, but there are certain things that are just part of our culture that just
Yeah.
cannot change.
Yeah, and that part I get, but it started to get very, into the weeds of it. And I was like, you know what, I made the decision. If you remember, I called and I had you talk to me about it when I was going through that. And I said, I just don't think it's worth. It's just
it wasn't.
We got a million logos. We're not going to fight over that one. So, but
John,
yeah.
I was going to say what you were saying, and I've noticed this at a lot of different universities, HBCUs specifically. There are a lot of rogue folks who basically are prostituting the brand. As you're saying with the logos, and you ask them, okay, well, when was the last time you were a member of this band or the dance squad? Oh, that was like 20 years ago. Okay, so like I said, a lot of people, and again, this is part of when you have different administrations come in. If you're not tied back to the marketing, as you were saying, of the branding guide for the university, which should be the wheelhouse and the collection of all things all over the property, you'll have those. Well, I've been doing this for such and such. I said, okay, well, your name not Jesus, so this is not your university. But it happens a lot, because especially even at FAMU, I saw that it was just people were literally ready to fight over certain things like that physically. I'm like, is it that deep?
I'm going to throw something different out there because one of the things that I've noticed with the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, early on, they embraced an organization outside of them, the USO. And so they go on those USO tours. And so, and you see that with other major companies too. So is there an opportunity for the band to latch on to a community service, something or another, where, this week we are marching for whatever organization. And then you get some media buzz around that too. And you start to create that you're not just a band. You're not just a dance team. You're a dance team that goes beyond, and now they go from liking you to really loving you and caring about what you do more.
Mm-hmm.
And Brenda, I'm glad you said that, because I always tell people, and I reference, it's not just because I'm a lifelong native Texan, but I always tell people, when you think of, now I don't like Jerry Jones as a person, but I love the Dallas Cowboys because I love branding. And I just don't think that you can have an appreciation and understand. I give credit where credit is due. People love the brand of the Dallas Cowboys because it's most of the time, despite the past 2 or 3 years, it's normally, as far as the brand, not the scores and all of that, but the brand and the consistency. And I'm 35 years old, and it's been the same the majority of my life, because he brought the team in like 89, so the majority of my life. But that has a clear, consistent message. So I always tell people, if you want a brand, as far as brand consistency, always reference the Dallas Cowboys, because they have a pretty good reputation in doing everything in excellence as far as the brand is concerned.
And can I add to that? At University of Texas, and this is where I really learned branding, I knew everything about the University of Texas brand before I even started my first day of class. And that was in my freshman year. And one thing I loved, because UT coming in, they tell you what the colors are, now I'm not going to get into the eye of Texas, so that's a whole nother situation. But we knew about the shooting from the platform. We knew when the colors change, why the colors change. And we were branding machines by the end of our freshman year. So, and like with Dallas Cowboys, I call them the Collin County Cowboys, and Brenda knows why, because they have no operation in Dallas whatsoever. But I do like their original brand. But one thing I credit UT, and I pull this into my journalism when I'm launching a new program, or if I'm rebranding an organization, like I did with South Florida Black Journalists when I was president down there, is that, as has been stated, what are you known for? And then how do other people see your brand, which I think a lot of HBCUs need to reach out to figure out, because how they're being perceived, so that way you can reintroduce your actual brand, because there have been a lot of people who have come through these institutions that was going to be some of those thank you lauded graduates, but the first one to be out there at homecoming with all this paraphernalia out there. So, and I think, like I said, UT for me was a great experience of understanding how want to be known and how you are known, and how to have others push your brand out there as well.
So I got a question. What are some things that are indicative of a strong brand, and how does a new entity develop their brand? A new entity, because we have a lot of young programs out there, you know, that are just wading into the water.
I'm gonna say visible consistency and visible excellence. So if you are Professor Wright, Mr. Wright at Alabama A&M, got there in about 2014. I think he got there in 2014. And I know he did a whole reworking of Alabama A&M's band. Like the sound of their band changed. And it seemed like every time you heard them play, the sound was either consistent or improving. And then I could remember, well, I think it was maybe 16 or 17 that the first time I saw that they had a media team, or maybe 18. And every time you saw their band play, you saw the sound that you heard or heard about. So if you are a new program, you need to make sure that every time you are putting something out there, it's either at the level of before or improving. And regardless of if you try to do something new, like I know we've tried to implement new things with A&T, like Day in the Life or other news, whatever, you still can't get away from the thing that represents you well. So if it's a field show, make sure that regardless if you try to implement something new, that your field shows are good. If you're a dance troupe, make sure that your highlights of the field show or your stand or whatever it is that you are known for is always posted or shared or viewed in a consistent light, but also in excellence. You don't want to have, oh, that was a good show, oh man, but 2 weeks ago it was bad. Y'all doing better. You want to make sure that everything is being put out there at a very high level, and be consistent about it. It can't be good in February and then in March you're having a down, or at the beginning of the season, you know, it's kind of bad, but you progress through the beginning. I'd rather not post something and be looked at as where's your content than to post something and now it's being negatively viewed because I was just trying to get something out there. So if you're a new entity, definitely consistency, but also a high level of performance, high level of excellent performance, consistency. Because
go ahead. You can keep going. You go.
I was gonna say one of my philosophies is your best recruiter is performance. It can be a positive thing or a negative thing, but your performance is your best recruiting tool and your best visible branding tool. So if I'd rather again not post a bad performance and let people say, well, what happened? What's going on? Than to put something out there and now it's going against the brand that we've created.
But on that, I want you to think about your performance, not just being on the field. Right. So the question was, how can a new organization make an impact? When there was a brand new hockey team in Las Vegas, Nevada, in the middle of the desert, most people there weren't even hockey fans. But when that shooting happened, and that hockey team got out and handed out waters, they were, in their T-shirts. They embraced the community. And what happened was the community loves that team. The stadium is packed every week, not because they love hockey, but because they love what the team stands for.
Right.
So performance on the field and off the field too.
Awesome.
Our brand ambassador, as you were saying with the USO. Yeah.
Yeah. And Garrett, you were going to say something?
For those new teams, you have to be consistent. You have to be better than your performance. If you shoot something this week, you should strive to be better that following week. From our standpoint, I try to be best no matter what. If I'm doing something this week, we're going to continue doing it the next week, but I'm going to add something new to that formula of what we're doing. So if you're new, consistent, try to be the best that you can in every aspect, media, branding wise, just keep striving.
And have a plan, because that's one thing. A lot of people that are going out there not having a plan. Even when I was a consumer reporter in Birmingham, I had certain stores that you could bank on every week. People knew that every Friday it was going to be a restaurant report or whatever. But I also knew that I had to drive interest in other elements. So, but it seems a lot of the stuff that's out there for some schools, it's very haphazard. There's no rhyme or reason to why they're doing what they're doing. So if you're new, you got to make sure you have a strategic plan on, a saturation, information, and consistency, so that people know, this is that's their brand. They're always on time, or they always have this kick line, or they always do this formation. That's that stuff like that. And I think, especially if you're new, because you want to come out the gate organized, well structured, and you don't have to overproduce certain things, but make sure what it is you're producing is linear, it's easily understood, it has a hook to it, and that hook will reel people in, and they'll tell other people to come in there, because they'll tell other people to come.
Right, and I'd like to comment specifically with dance teams. We had a young lady Thursday night in our session, Thursday night, from North Carolina A&T, who talked about the training that Golden Delight goes through before they take a step. And a lot of the training that they do is about branding, and is about the image, not just from this perspective of the dance team, but of the marching band, of the university as a whole. And I think one of the problems that we have right now is that our young people are very much into, me. Social media has made them all about me. And so when we sit down and we have these conversations about, it doesn't matter that you don't have on the name of your team on your chest. People know who you are. They know where you're from. They know what you do. You are constantly representing, whatever university. And if you are not up for that, then this job is not for you. And I have said that so many times, and they just don't understand. And so, I looked at Ray and I looked at Tiffany, and I said, okay, I need y'all to get together, put that program together, because that's going to be some training that we're going to offer, to coaches and performers, because I think, they need to know you. And what's really irritating about the whole thing is some of them leave us, the ones that complained over and over again, I should be able to do what I want to do. They leave us, they go audition for Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, for the Texans, for the Rockets, for the Hawks, and they snap into then the light goes on and they get it and they understand. And that just irritates me. Like, I'm happy, but it irritates me, right? Because it is the same thing that we've been trying to tell them, that we are the face of the university. And if that is not something that you are set up for, this job is not for you.
Yeah.
And so we have to keep, as coaches and directors, we have to keep driving that home.
And I think telling them also that they are representatives of the university, so they have to separate themselves, as Brenda was saying. You have your individual side, but once you put that uniform on, they see, oh, you are a member of this. And they hear you, because that's how students are too. They'll cry you a river, and fight you tooth and nail. But as soon as they leave, graduate or whatever, somebody says, oh, well, Sean was right, but I didn't want to tell her because da-da-da. And I think what it is being that consistency. And again, I hope that people that with bands and stuff like that really lean on the professors as well, not only for training, but as a young lady was saying that's from Atlanta about, professors actually, see these kids more so than y'all do for performance, so they know their character. They see something suspect. But I always tell my kids, I'm going to be scrubbing y'all social media myself, because I want to tell you now what you need to clean up so that you'll be able to be competitive. So I think just having more training, tapping into those resources. If there is a great production, or when I would say production, journalism training class that includes the production, because it helps people to understand how to navigate and stuff like that. And then also let them know about ethics, because again, there's an ethics to being a student. There's liability and ethics to being a representative of your band. Because like at FAMU, like I said, when they came back from the marching, whatever they call the marching 100, from 500 down to a strong 250, maybe 175, the sound was off. But they knew they had to go back to their basics and build up from there.
Well, this has all been some really just awesome discussion. I have a couple of questions that have come from our attendees, so I'm going to pose those real quick, and then we'll wrap it up because it's Saturday. It stopped raining here in Houston. So
on your side of town.
Oh, my side of town, it stopped raining in Houston West. But let's see, I have one question here. How do you balance when the band or team's brand becomes or overshadows the university's brand?
I don't think you balance it. I'll speak on us. Our band's brand is bigger than the university. I'm just being honest. It's the truth. It's the truth. So I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing just because they're not on board with what we're doing. I'm going to keep going. And it's their job to try to catch up to what we're doing at the end of the day. We have 140,000 something people on Facebook when they're at 60,000. That's not our fault. So I'm not going to stop what we're doing just to wait for them to catch up.
Part of it's cultural though, don't you think? Because right now the band culture is it.
I would agree, because when you think of HBCU, most people go to the games for the band. So
Yes.
that is the thing there. So and part of what he was saying at Southern now, because this happened at a TV station I was at in East Texas when I was a care provider for my father. There was a local resale antique store. Now my hometown has maybe 50,000 people, but they had over like 80,000 likes on their page. So my assignments manager said, well, we need to go do a story on how they got to get so many likes. And this is what this furniture company does. They have they have followers across the Southwest and Southeast, from Arkansas and Colorado. They tell you when they're going to post the new items. They deliver when they post it. And they said, if you want to get it while it's hot, call us. We'll take your information over the phone. So all these people, they worked their customers, and the customers then told other customers. So like with Southern, again, I've never been there. I think it's great that every HBCU that I've been to, the band is always the biggest thing. Mm-hmm. So with the university, it's more focused on the academic side, but there still always be that conversation of they should never try to come in and control it, but making sure that it stays on the brand, because somebody goes rogue, and then they're not going to worry about suing the band. They're coming after that president and that board, get them coin. So.
That's correct.
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
And I want to challenge you to think about something as you go into this fall semester. We've got so much going on in our country right now with the cultural divide. How can the bands and the dance teams really kind of make a statement? And here's a small idea. Because like you said, Michael, when you think about an HBCU, you think about the band first, and I don't care what complexion of skin you are, that's what, marks the HBCU and sets us apart. But what if this year, we as HBCU bands are going to reinvest in the community? We're going to have band lessons. We're going to take our old instruments that we don't use. We're going to have dance lessons, whatever it is. But make a statement, because you have a platform. How will you use this platform to make a difference in our culture today?
I think some schools already do a really good job in that. And I think that comes back to the training of the media teams. Like, for example, I pay attention to what other HBCU media teams do, because it just gives me more insight. If Sean and I have discussions, then I'll let her know. For the State Fair Classic, we started off about like 5 years ago, just a few ideas I had, and it turned into a thing, like, as far as the tour is concerned, as far as like schools now wanting the band, and it becomes more of a community impact. And I think that all goes into encompassing under the umbrella of the brand of the institution, because then it becomes a recruiting tool. It becomes something where, I'm from a place where almost when you come out of the womb where you're from, where I'm from, certain things about Texas A&M University. So I just took that, and the thing is, I just dismissed the whole A&M part, and I'm a Prairie View person. So therefore, the things that I've always seen and that have been indoctrinated in me in 4 generations now, it becomes natural to me. So therefore, I think that, to piggyback on what Brenda is saying, I think it's a wonderful opportunity, especially since we seem to have so much free time now, or will have more free time than we're used to kind of reevaluate, where we stand in communities and do what we do. And like, I give credit where credit is due. And like with Southern, y'all's photography was phenomenal. Even, I love and appreciate the videos and things that y'all do, but y'all have some really good still photography as well that kind of captures the essence of Southern Louisiana, from like different Mardi Gras parades and things like that. But that's a part of the culture of Southern as well.
Can I talk about that Southern production, not just Southern? For me, when I watched it on IG and YouTube, I have a sensory overload, because I'm in looking at stories and looking at a band, looking at formations, but also the parades. Like I said, I compared what you would see at the Rose Bowl parade, because when you look at that, there's certain key angles, but again, it's controlled by the network that you will get. Whereas there's some creative angles that I've seen with Dr. Price, that I think that's at Southern, and some other folks that I've seen kind of studying their shots, because I'm always looking at what angles are they getting. And I know when you're looking at it, there's never an overhead shot that you would get like at a DCC. So I think some of the photography will be even better at all HBCUs if it was a little bit more structured, because again, I see so many other rogue people that are in the way. I see people walking by people's shots like this. I'm like, okay, well, there goes my concentration. I'm like, who is this muck that's walking through here? Da 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 da. But I think, like I said, this is just me not being at an HBCU as an undergraduate, but having studied and worked with the different bands and students that are in there to make sure that they are, being cautious, but also getting very great images that could be utilized for post-production things. And I think this coronavirus situation has a lot of people returning back to what all of this is about. It's meaning that getting back to it being student band performers, where academics has to come first, but now finding a platform to make certain that the auxiliary remains relevant. And this is something that we're looking to do on our market communication side, is tell what you all are doing. And so, especially with this month of August as well, setting it up, what are these bands getting ready to start doing to not only maintain their sound, but to maintain their presence and prominence in the community and lives of people they impact.
That's awesome. I have a question for the band media. What's some advice for branding in auxiliary media? So that's dancers and color guard.
I think it's all the same. Is it not all the same?
No.
No.
Where is the bison?
It's not. I'll say this, and I'm, just putting it out there. Good music in, good music out. Yeah. Good footage in, good footage out. So first and foremost, your team has to be good, i.e. fundamentally sound, good technique, good overall look of the squad. Because if I'm editing 3 different angles or 4 angles, and I'm trying to capture a good recording, and technique is all over the place, as an editor, that's hard for me, because I'm trying my best to put the good image of the squad out. And you don't want, because there's so many, I guess rogue or sideline people now in the auxiliary community that put things up weekly. Let's judge this, halftime performance. And the last thing I want to do is put something out there that doesn't look good or represent how the squad should look Like oftentimes I'll have a conversation with Shelton, I still be T Brown, and we'll talk about, before the performance, this is what's going to look good. These are some of the things we want to make sure we highlight. And then afterwards, I'll come up and say, hey, I kind of saw her leg look a little, yeah. Okay, so now I'm understanding going in that there are some things that, I know didn't capture the best of the squad. So just, get back to what the initial, question was, making sure that everybody on the team is fundamentally sound, and that when we know that we're going to do a performance, that it's at the best and highest quality. Even if we just do an overhead of the group, that without any edits or anything, we know that that's going to be a good performance. Also, get a good photographer. Not just videography, but also photography, so that if you're going to do a photo shoot, that this photographer has enough sound experience and quality equipment to capture the program or the auxiliary team in a good light. Another good way, a lot of things people are trying to do now is everybody wants the raw insight. So maybe do some write-ups on your captains, on your leadership teams, on your incoming students, and not just them as auxiliary students, but also them as students. Yeah, I am a incoming engineering major. Well, how do you balance that? Because I know the band takes up a bunch of time, because people want to know what it's like to be you, honestly. They really want to know what it's like they live vicariously through you. So a good way to get some of that branding out there is, again, to be consistent, make sure the team is good, and take little small opportunities to bring more exposure to the group. And as Ms. Till has been saying, do some community service type events to where the team is going to a food bank, or the team is going to a high school and assisting them with their rehearsals, or going to do a performance at a local athletic event, where they're the halftime entertainment, doing certain things like that to bring more exposure to the team. But at the same time, all exposure is not good exposure. So you have to be calculated in the things you say yes to and the things you say no to. Yes. So that's something that a lot of people, and one of the questions also saturating the market. You can't say yes to everything.
That's right.
So you have to be very strategic and calculated on how you go about, accepting performances or opportunities or things like that as well.
Yeah, and so that's how you choose. You decide what your team wants to represent. If it's, I don't know, kids, if it's education, if it's health, whatever. And those are the events that you spend your energy on. See, I told you, Doc, it was the same thing.
It is the same thing, because I'll just talk about like A&T and the band and auxiliary. Like, we do a lot of things for kids in schools. Like, we do a lot of performances with first day of schools. We do a lot of community events to where there'll be young children there, and it's like after every performance we'll always take time to let the kids play on the drums or take pictures or do things like that, because who knows, I've gotten messages now. It was like, yeah, I was in 8th grade when you came to XYZ, and now I'm about to be a senior. Can I get the audition requirements? And so you just never know when you're going to make those impacts. I would also encourage groups to host days on campus where students can come in, do a camp or a training, and so students can get firsthand information from you, because everybody goes to YouTube and things like that, but being able to physically be there in person and see these things and ask these questions, like, oh, you're the captain, auxiliary people don't understand, you're like the superstar to them, because they saw you on TV or on a clip. And so by you being able to take pictures, like Marcy, the captain for Golden Delight, I always joke because people are always just dying, shaking to trying to take a picture with her. But then when they have events on campus, that awe or stardom is kind of brought down a little bit, because you realize they're actual people. And so having things on campus, and that way, that brings recruitment and that brings notoriety as well. So those are some of the things I think can really help up and coming groups or groups establish who they are.
Yeah, and like Eric Johnson posted, Southern has a Jukebox Cares initiative that gives back during the holidays, engages elementary and middle schools, cancer awareness, etc. And those and the thing about it is that I've never heard, I've never heard, that would be something to really highlight, especially during this time that we're about to go through. I know with us, we have work out with the Black Foxes, and then we have the baby. We used to have baby foxes, and when I stopped doing baby foxes, oh my goodness, so many people had connected with that event, especially the young, the babies, and they just had a fit, when I stopped doing it. So all those things, are very, very important, not just our performance aspect, but all of those other things that integrate us into the university as a whole are also very important.
In the South too, you've got diabetes and you've got hypertension. With this coronavirus, those are the people who are dying the most. And so perhaps, that's something else that you can directly impact. That's our community, who are dying because of that. Go ahead, Michael. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's okay, because the College of Nursing, Prairie View has a College of Nursing which actually awards doctoral degrees in nursing. So that would be an easy connect, either with the College of Nursing at Prairie View, but also with our College of Ag, because in these urban communities, we still have those deserts, those food deserts. So that could be something that, a lot of these kids are in those majors. And another thing I was going to say, when the doctor from A&T was talking, I just thought about two things. One, when you all, when you're producing when we're producing a news program, you normally have a team, a production team that would have a technical director, an audio director, a switcher, graphics person, things of that nature. I'm not certain if you all do this with your media teams, but for example, when I was on a fellowship at the LA Times in summer 2014, where they basically began a studio, a broadcast studio in the middle of their print newsroom, and they used TriCaster, but they had like a 5-camera setup, which I think was too much for them. But I think maybe if the production value of the coverage of your performances, if you're using like a TriCaster setup where you are actually switching between cameras, covering the production and performances, and that way, separate from what they're doing for the football team. But if you have kids who are actually can run that system and actually produce your coverage of your performances. Someone is, okay, here's the formation. I'm going to get a tight shot of this. Camera one, stand by. We're going to take that shot, so that it elevates the look of your final product, and people are like, man, that's a professional production. And Prairie View has a production program, and I think by utilizing that, just be thinking long term, that will help out. And I also think having your media team members network with, like if you're in the Houston area, or if you're in Jackson, chief photographers or directors at the local stations, they oftentimes like to, before COVID, would come and show some tips, because that's how they give community service from their networks and from their newspapers and stuff like that. They will actually come out and do joint projects to do some additional training and show you what they're working on, because they have more money in their budgets, to kind of show you some tricks of the trade. And then it also helps build a media relationship with those in your media market, so you'll know who are legit and who are those rogue people as well.
Well, I want to thank you, all of you, for devoting your afternoon to the association. We are on Facebook as well as Instagram, the National HBCU Auxiliary and Dance Directors Association. So I appreciate it if you would follow us and kind of keep up with what we're doing. We're brand new, and but we got a lot of good people, and we're doing a lot of good things. So we appreciate your support with that. Also, I want to just shout out, if you guys have like your Instagram where people can follow you or anything like that, go ahead and put it in the chat real quick, so that people can see where they can follow you and get a hold of you. I know Terrence is Trademark Creative, right? You're
The Uppity brand.
yeah, the Uppity brand. Alex is GoToAlly, GoToAlly on Instagram. And I'm not sure, Kayla, you're gonna have to tell me what yours is, or
I can write in the comment, but it's my name, KaylaMarie.J.
And also who joined us is LaRon Bailey, who's the percussion director at Prairie View, but he does a lot of lessons, and he's over the Pink Sands brass band here in the area. Bailey, go ahead and put your Instagram information in the chat, so if people need to reach out to you, they can. And again, I just want to say thank you so much. This information has been so helpful and so needed by a lot of people. And as I was mentioning last night, we believe that this social media summit will be a yearly event for the association. That's something that we'll continue to do. And so I just really appreciate, you guys taking part. So, any questions, comments before we head out?
Thank you for organizing all of this. I'm doing my snapping my fingers here.
Side note, Brenda Teal, I'm from Fort Worth, so I know about Channel 8, WFAA, everything. So I was like, I remember her. So
don't you start with when you were in the 8th grade. Those
And she was the first Black weather person that I saw in the air when I visited Dallas Fort Worth.
I was like, I remember. Yeah, okay.
Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. I enjoyed it. I learned a whole lot too.
Great, awesome. Well, good. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and thanks for making our first social media summit a huge success. I'm just excited. I'm beyond the moon excited about how this turned out. So, and I'm going to send you guys, my panelists, I'll send you an email. I just want you to send me a mailing address because I want to forward a little gift of appreciation to you for participating today. So if you can, just drop me your mailing address when you can.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, you guys have a good afternoon.
You too.
You too.